One thing, welcome everyone, just by the way. Uh, Tim Muth is going to kind of lead us. I'm going to co-pilot him, if that's the right phrasing. But one thing, we know there's going to be tons of questions, right? So if you have questions, put them in the chat as we go. Um, there's a lot to talk about with this. We're going to try and move through it and answer questions as we go more near the end. I'll watch the chat. If there's a sense of like this is really pertinent to right now, then maybe I'll stop and say, hey, here's a question for us. Okay. So feel free to put them in the chat, but otherwise we'll get going. Tim Muth, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I can do that. So I'm Tim Muth. I'm at All People's Church in Milwaukee, except when I'm in El Salvador with our sister church, where I am right now. Um, I've sort of I'm a lawyer, but I came from a family of people that was in the computer industry. My mother was a computer programmer. My dad worked in the computer industry the whole time. So I've always liked to play around with this stuff, although not as much as Pastor Chris. And so even though I'm going to start out, I'm looking forward to what Pastor Chris has to share about the things that he's been doing with AI. So I've got some slides that I am going to share on the screen just to help um, out. So hopefully you
It's
should be
starting. Here we go. Mhm.
seeing my screen. Is it there?
Yes.
All right. Um, AI is not as scary as you think, and you can see already that it does not correct everything because I've got the wrong date on the slides. It is not June 21st. That's because I edited that part of the slides. Pretty much all the rest of these slides were generated using this was Google's version of AI. They call it Gemini. Um, uh, and so I'll talk a little bit as we go through about how having using things like ChatGPT or Google's Gemini or Microsoft's Copilot. There's another one called Claude I've never used, but I understand that it is another one of these AI tools. So, um, what are some of the things that people in ministry, in church offices, pastors can do? It can draft articles. One of the things it's really good at is summarizing. So you have a long article or a long set of notes, and you want to have a summary of it. Matter of fact, if you saw the little note that said this meeting is being recorded and it's being transcribed for AI Companion, Zoom is actually taking a transcript of everything that we say during the course of the meeting, and a summary is going to be generated of everything that was discussed during the course of the call. If you have church council meetings by Zoom, or other meetings by Zoom, that's a great way to generate the minutes of the meeting, and being able to get your minutes out right after the meeting rather than the day before the next meeting, which is where most of my minutes tend to show up. Um, so it's also useful for things, and we'll talk about how you actually do this in a second, but to help you brainstorm like catchy subject lines in for social media. So here was an example. Write a short newsletter blurb about our upcoming fall festival, including date, time, and a few highlights of activities. So it's literally uh, as simple as that. It's like asking an assistant to do something. All right. So, well, really, what is it? Um, think of it as a smart digital assistant. The technology learned by reading everything on the internet is one way of describing it, and it just works from patterns and what have been answers to particular kinds of questions, and then using computer logic and reasoning to come up with parallel but it ends up feeling like magic a little bit. But it really is, and there are examples you've already been using, whether it is Siri and Alexa or Google Maps plotting a route from one place to the next. Those are all versions, specialized versions of AI. And what ChatGPT or Google Gemini are generalized to sort of all sorts of questions, as opposed to asking, how do I get from point A to point B? So let's talk about some specific applications. And as I've been going through these slides, so far, all the text and all the graphics on all of these slides were created just by asking Google Gemini. I said, I need to write a presentation about how AI can be used by churches. And this set of slides, all the words on them were generated by AI. The images were generated by me asking it, come up with a slide or an image that will be a nice illustration to go along with the set of words on the slide. Now, sometimes it wasn't a great image, and so I just say, redo, generate a different image, or redo with an image that is more photographic in nature. So we'll take like this example that is listed here about creating 3 social media messages for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter about a group car wash fundraiser. And so I literally just took that prompt and entered it into a ChatGPT, just those words that were on the last slide about write 3 social media posts. And these are the ones that I had 10 seconds later, rather than having to sort of be clever and come up with different ideas myself. It came up with, some moderately cute social media posts for Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And you could do the next thing you could say would be, for the Facebook post, generate a cartoon image of a car with youth washing it in front of a church. And you would have an image created that you could attach to go along with your Facebook post as an example. And the nice thing about this stuff is you can just play around to learn how it works. If you don't like the output, just ask it to do it again, or ask it to do it again, but instead of a cartoon image, create a line drawing, um, or create a photorealistic image. It all depends on sort of what works for your interest in doing that. AI for Bible study. Now, this sounds kind of sacrilegious, and potentially problematic in all sorts of ways. Um, but if you needed a really quickly a Bible study that a small group was looking for some help in coming up with some discussion questions, um, I have to say that all the different AI chatbots, ChatGPT or Google Gemini, are really good at Bible study questions like this. So again, I just took this sample of generate questions for a small group study on the parable of the Good Samaritan, and this is the unedited response that I got from ChatGPT. Um, it's it's nothing fancy in a lot of ways. I mean, you read it and say, these are fine. You're not going to look at them and say, wow, that's the most brilliant set of Good Samaritan parable questions I've ever read. But not a bad way to quickly get something if you are strapped for time. Um, One time, I mentioned I'm in El Salvador, and I was invited into a chat prayer chain, except the rest of the people in the chain were all solely Spanish speakers, and and the request came to me. We need a short devotion on a particular, I don't remember what the passage was anymore. And so my my devotional Spanish isn't great. So instead, I did go to ChatGPT and ask for provide a two-paragraph devotion on in Spanish on this particular passage. And it came up with a perfectly passable devotion on that passage in good Spanish. And I was able to share it in this chat group and fulfill my obligation for being part of the group. Um, Another example that AI gave me for how churches can use AI was, if you are actually promoting your sermons or your sermon series, and so, with this prompt about write a short, catchy ad for our new sermon series, Peace Be With You, and targeting it to young adults, it generated that particular image. So this is not a real photo of anyone. This is an AI generated image to illustrate a sermon series about overcoming anxiety. Um, and it gets the point across. AI for first drafts of newsletter articles and things. So the way you could use an AI chat, something like ChatGPT, to help you with newsletters is to you would give it the basic information for the newsletter article you want to write. Um, so it might be, for example, that your church just had their youth went on a mission trip to West Virginia, and you had the youth just send emails back to the pastor with their top three impressions from the mission trip. And what you can do is copy and paste those notes to the to AI and say, take these instances from the youth and generate an article for our newsletter about the church mission trip. And you would be surprised at the quality of a first draft. And I'm going to emphasize that a number of times, which is I always think that what you're getting is first drafts. It is a great starting place for you then to act to work from, and to edit and refine and put it in your own voice and your own style. One thing that I have recently found Google Gemini to do really well, and I'm sure ChatGPT does equally well, is helping in grant research and grant proposal work. So it can both help you in identifying relevant funding opportunities and in drafting compelling grant proposals. I'm going to switch to share a different screen here because what I want to show you is something that Google Gemini just generated for me an hour ago. It took it 15 minutes. I was looking, our church at All Peoples is a 120-year-old church on the historic register, and it is not handicap accessible. There's 10 steps to get into the sanctuary. There's a flight of stairs to get down to the fellowship hall, and we have for a very long time really wanted to make the church accessible, but we do not have the funds for that. So I entered a question to Google Gemini in what's called deep research, saying that our 120-year-old church on the Registry of Historic Buildings, we're a Lutheran congregation. We have limited resources and we are looking for grant funding. What might be the grants that are available? And I received back it's about a 30-page report listing the most promising avenues for securing funding, telling about what are the strong points and the challenges for obtaining grant funding, links to the websites of the different possible sources of grant funding. And this was all generated between 4:39 and 4:54 this afternoon. It took 15 minutes for me to get all this useful information to help us then potentially pursue grants. And it will then be useful in helping generate the narrative that would go into a grant application. Or another thing, you can do. So I'm church treasurer, which means I'm the person, one of the lead people in going out and trying to find money for all peoples. And so doing things like here's all sorts of text from our website about what we're doing. here's the question in a grant application. Please generate a 5 sentence answer to this particular question in a grant application. And it comes back with five sentences drafted based on what our website says, All Peoples is all about, that I can then plug into an Outreach for Hope grant application, for example. Not that there's a grant application deadline for Outreach for Hope on June 30th or anything. But that is, one way that it can speed up the process of things for grant applications or newsletters or a blog post or any number of other things along those lines. Now, let me see if I can figure out how to get back to the other screen. I got here, but Chris, I'll be darned if I know how to get.
Why don't
Well,
you
I can,
stop sharing and then reshare
yeah, I
if you
think I can just do that. Yeah.
Mhm. We'll ask
Sharing.
real quick. Any quick questions people have? That otherwise we'll keep going.
I mean, well,
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead and ask.
okay, so I know with my Microsoft Office, I get Copilot as part of
Mhm.
a subscription, but how much does this cost to do Chat GPT and the
Yeah.
Google one?
So just about all of these have a free level and it's, I don't know, for Google it's called Pro, Google Gemini Pro. I don't remember what Chat GPT is.
These
It's
have a
amazing
paid
how
version.
much, yeah, it's amazing how much you can do with the free version
Mhm.
of ChatGPT. I only have the free version of ChatGPT. For Google Gemini, I have the Pro version, which comes as part of a bigger set of Google tools and costs me $20 a month, both for um, uh, Gemini Pro, but also like 2 terabytes of storage in the Google Cloud and a bunch of other tools that are all bundled together as part of that $20 a month. So and I don't think there's a way to get it separate without those tools. So I don't. But I'm paying $20 a month is my current AI budget. Um,
So do you do that as a personal account or somehow work it through the church to do that?
at the moment, that's just me personally.
Okay.
Uh, I haven't explored like for our office manager, what how it builds into sort of we have Google Workspace for the church, what that add-on cost would be.
Okay.
And I said to our staff, so I use ChatGPT. I'm using the lower paid level. There's a super pro level. The basic paid level is $20 a month. You can use they have a free and you get a whole bunch of stuff for free, but then it hits a limit and then they say, okay, come back tomorrow and start over. They limit you at a certain level, but the 20 is essentially unlimited. But you can do the super high level, which is 150 a month. I've never seen the need for that, but I know when you're doing like major business things and really pumping a lot through it, I'm sure I'm sure that's when you start to get into that level. But the $20 for me is a ton. But there are tools like Google's Notebook LM. that you can do for free, and it's got a ton of stuff to it. So yeah, there's a lot. The chat systems will allow you to do stuff quite a bit for free, and you start to learn it. And it's until you start to hit the limits and you really start to say, "I really want to do more with this," that you start to pay. But
Yeah, I
Great,
would
thank you.
definitely start just playing around.
mhm,
And I know that's easier said to people who like to play around with technology than people who
mhm,
just want it to do where they know what it'll do as soon. There's some people, right, who, okay, if I press X, I want to know that Y will happen. Well, sometimes with AI, it's let's see what'll happen. And then if it doesn't work exactly the way I want, then I'll try again. I mean, there's a bit more of that. And I know that, some folks that's uncomfortable. Let's see. What did I have after grant proposals? Actually, I think that probably was the last slide I have, Chris.
okay.
So, yeah. So, Chris, tell us about the things that you've been finding it useful for at Outreach for Hope.
Yeah, so let me just show you a little bit about um, I so I'm just going to show you ChatGPT and we'll do a couple of samples. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Yep.
So it's kind of what they would say is this a kind of a chat system. So it's you want to almost pretend that you're chatting to a personal assistant. And you might want to almost try to think of AI as, okay, if I had someone sitting right across from me and they're waiting to do whatever I'm going to ask them to do, how would I ask them to do this? What would I tell them? If you said if you said I want you to write me a letter, they'd say, okay, well, what kind of letter? And well, I want you to write me I want you to write me a thank you letter to someone for making a donation. Okay, well, what kind of thank you letter should it be? What did they donate? See, the more specific you can be, the better.
So,
So go
so
ahead.
Chris,
Mhm.
just so people know, let's make this really unscripted so they don't think you
Yeah,
preset this up. Let's let
sure.
people suggest what they want.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. So
so
who's got some ideas?
something you want to see if ChatGPT can do.
Oh, okay, so I'll jump in here again.
Sure.
So we've got a neighborhood camp going on now,
Hmm.
and there are individual donors to this neighborhood camp. So I'd like to thank people that have donated to neighborhood camp, which serves underprivileged kids in Racine, Wisconsin. And I'd like to put in the dollar amount that they contributed because this would be tax deductible. And
Right. I'm gonna spell things wrong and it won't care.
okay,
Um, that's the other beauty of AI. It gets what you're trying to say, and you don't have to sell it and say it. So I'm intentionally I'm intentionally typing these wrong and spelling things wrong. That's my excuse. Um, write me a thank you letter to donors that support our camp. I'm just going to keep it like that. We could get
okay.
more detailed on it. We could do more with it. So I'm going to hit go and see what happens. Certainly, here's a warm and heartfelt thank you letter. Dear donor. So that was how many seconds?
Three.
And let's read it. On behalf of all of us involved in our neighborhood camp here in Racine, thank you. Your generosity has helped create a safe, joyful, and enriching space for underprivileged children in our community to learn, play, and grow. Because of your support, kids who often face difficult circumstances are enjoying a summer filled with laughter, friendship, healthy meals. Now you could say, okay, yeah, that's all right. Uh, add to it um, that we also enjoyed some field trips uh, to learn about um, our community and grow in our understanding of um, our culture. I don't know. Absolutely, it knew what I was trying to say. Here's the modified version because you were sports, exercise, summer fun, blah blah. So then the camp's not only fun. Thanks. Day outside of this, you know. So that's great. Now, hey, this is good, but I would like it in a much more formal tone. This is going to people that are very serious and um, want want to have a sense of professionalism to our work. Please regenerate it, rewrite it with this tone. So it starts to use bigger words and sound a little bit more. It just changes the tone. Um, great. Now write it um, for a first grader. Eat yummy food.
The
Make new
yummy food.
friends.
I like that.
So, and this needs to be 5 pages long.
Oh, geez.
Let's see if I get my pages right. Um,
Up paragraphs.
oh, I just said 5 paragraphs of now five. I don't want to wait for 5 pages,
No,
but
no, we don't want
you get
five
the
pages.
point. You get the point.
No, it's all
So
got to fit on one page, you know.
so then when you've got it the way you want it, you can make a copy. You can just hit the copy button, and it's in your copy and paste. You can also say generate a Word document for this. And so it will create it into a Word document, and you can download the Word document. Um, and so there it is. You can download it, and it's already created as a Word document. So this is a great sample of this is extremely simple for it to do, right? How about this? For the camp, um, we are the counselors of this camp, uh, and and we need 50 simple games to play with the kids. Here are 50 simple low prep games, active outdoors. So it gives you a bunch of samples, quiet, low energy, 20 questions. So it helps remind you, oh, yeah, we could do that. I hadn't thought of that one. Creative and imaginative, groups them into human nuts. And you can say, I don't know what number 36 is. Explain it. It knows what 36 is. I mean, it's got the correlation to everything. Human knot. So now how to play human knots. 5 6 6, everyone stand in a circle. Gives you the instructions. I mean, that took seconds, right? Um, uh, any games, or how about creative activities? How about creative drawing activities using crayons? I don't know. Here's 20 creative drawing activities. Draw your dream playground. Design your own superhero. Create a map of. So this is all really geared at a camp kids, right? Um, so this is the kind of stuff. If you it's pretend they're your assistant and hey, help me figure this out. I was doing the other day. I didn't understand. I was asking it some stuff about my car. I don't understand how to do this. Is there a way to turn these buttons off so they stop bothering me? And it was a no. No, you can't do that. But it can. If here's a workaround. It gave me other things to do. Um, so you can really get into things like this. You can even say search the web. So this little button here is searching the web. Search the web for um, great YouTube videos that show me games for kids. Tim talked about deep research. Deep research is like, I really want you to scour. I really want you to think about this. I really want you to work on this topic. So instead of just the 1 minute 5 second version, give me a deep research on this and really come at it from a professional standpoint. Um, it'll get into really, I mean, this will take 15 minutes and it will come back with some really serious good stuff. Um,
Yeah,
each, go ahead.
I was just going to say the deep research is usually a feature of these $20 a month
Mhm.
versions. But everything Chris showed before about doing the letter and the list of games and all of that, certainly any of the free versions would do, and just as quickly and just as completely as what Chris just showed you.
Okay, so I have
Um,
another question. With the
yeah.
free version, do you only have so many requests per month that you can make?
I haven't used the free one for so long I forget. But I believe it's I think you get I think there are a certain amount of requests, especially when you get into generating images. So, for example, now if we said generate a fun, a cartoon image of a group of kids having a great time at camp, doing a variety of standard camp activities that kids would do at a church camp. I don't know. So the generating images, this takes longer. Now it sometimes it'll come back and say, okay, sure, but here's some questions I have for you before I get going. What are their age groups? Let's say um, uh, around, let's say age 5 to 10.
Yeah.
Do you want any specific camp activities? What are they doing?
How
Um,
about a Gaga ball pit?
they are playing
Gaga.
Gaga ball.
Okay.
And I would say and outdoors activities like pitch. Three, should image include symbols? Um, yes, include a church steeple in the background. How about that? Preferred setting around a campfire, setting outdoors. Done.
Okay.
So you can ask it to be really specific. Now it's doing some work. This creating images takes a little bit. By the way, they'll create videos for you now. They'll actually create a whole video on what you're asking. Uh, that's where it starts getting really scary because even in when you see on Facebook things that are going on, start to you have to start to say, is that fake? Because some of the stuff looks really good. Um, so yeah. Other questions? Well, this might take just a few minutes, but Other
I have
questions
a
people
couple
have?
questions.
Nicole, yeah, go ahead.
So I know that it's been recommended that we can use this for grants.
Hmm.
What's the likelihood of Incarnation submitting a grant for something and all people's submitting a grant for something for to Outreach for Hope, for
Hmm.
example,
Hmm.
and using one of these
Hmm.
chat GPT, GP or made Meta or whatever avenue we decide to use. What's the likelihood of us submitting the information and it produces the same sort of the same uh, uh, response? And
I'll let
do
Tim answer that while I go close my windows on my car before they get before.
Yeah, that's a great question, Nicole. I think it's one of the reasons I always say just think of it as a first draft and to then customize to make it sound the way your church's personality or whatever might be. It's not likely that they would be identical, but I will say that um, it's possible for them to sound like they were both generated by ChatGPT. And in my professional life, I'm involved in hiring some people, and we reviewed uh, lots, dozens of cover letters applying for this particular job. And I could tell the ones uh, you sort of got a feel for which ones had been generated by ChatGPT or whatever because they would use like the same kind of turn of phrase about why it would be a great experience working with our organization. And there were just some things. So it is really important not to just take the first draft without tweaking it, or there's no reason you have to do all your drafting inside Chat GPT, saying, tweak it a little bit this way, or, just copy it into your Word document or whatever it might be, and just continue the work yourself the way you would normally draft something. You don't have to get to the final product inside one of these products. But it is something to be aware of that there's a certain feel that once you've read a lot of stuff generated by ChatGPT or Google Gemini, you can sort of have a sense of when it's just the plain vanilla straight out of the mouth of the computer. I don't know if that answers your question, but
it does. It
okay.
does. Thank you. I
Yeah,
have a second question.
go ahead.
When dealing with photos or images, would
Yeah.
you recommend, or is there any way, like if, like right now we're waiting for this image to be created, would you recommend, like if right now we are in camp at Incarnation, this is week 2 of 3-week camp, and I'm taking videos and pictures throughout the day just to show what the kids are doing. Would you recommend putting an actual photo of a child or our program through one of these systems in order for it to help create a video, or should we stray away from using actual photos?
Um, I'm just gonna pull up an actual. I mean, there's kind of a couple things with that question, I think. Tim, you want to talk about privacy?
And we do have the parents sign a waiver
Hmm.
saying that we can use their child's likeness in our videos to our donors. We don't post anything on like social media or anything.
So,
Yeah, I was just going to say, I would think for things like that, I would, put the image into your word processing document or whatever, the normal way you would, rather than, using, if what you are trying to show is here's what actually was going on. Um, I have a lot of concerns, as we probably all should, about the amount of sort of fake AI content being passed off as this was reality,
Mhm.
and that risk. So when I create images like to illustrate things in the slides you saw earlier, I much prefer things that are more cartoony or obviously computer generated than something that looks like, oh, that was a real image of a real church, for example.
Okay. I should have asked a different way. I like for submitting to Siebert, the Siebert Foundation. I don't want to submit a photo that's AI generated. I want to just show an actual photo. So like right now we're waiting on one to be created. I don't want to submit that and say this is something that we're doing at our camp. Or I don't know, that to me feels
mhm.
Right.
disingenuous. So
Mhm.
I'm just wondering if I should just use straight camera shots and videos that we're taking and not do any. I guess I was trying to, um,
No, I agree with you.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
you should be using real photos, especially if you've got permission by by the families. I
Okay.
realized the mistake I did with what I just asked it for. It thinks I'm looking for a deep research on images that of the things that we do. So that's why it was taking so long. I'm like, why is this taking so long? This never takes this long. Here is, can you all see Chris Bloin here?
Mm-hmm.
So I met with them for lunch the other day, and I was telling you about how much fun this is. And I said, let me take a picture of you and your wife while we're having lunch. And I said, now convert this. I uploaded this picture into AI, and I said, convert this into a cartoon picture. Oops, it wasn't that one. It was this one. So this is what it did for me based on this image. I mean, that's pretty darn good, isn't it? Um, Pretty crazy how it can do that. It even got, if you look at the name Thrivent spelled correctly and everything, it's using the same looks, the same hats. I mean, it's pretty cool.
So
So yeah.
I've got a question about that. So you sent that original picture up to wherever
Hmm. I uploaded it
GPI.
into ChatGPT. Mhm.
So what happens to that picture? Is that there on the internet now forever? Or, I mean, I realize you get back a
Yeah.
cartoon, but what happens to the original
Right.
picture?
Yeah. So there are, whenever you use one of these tools, you actually want to read the legalese.
Hmm.
But both ChatGPT and Google have a setting that lets you decide, one, does your information get used to train their system for other people to use, and you don't want your information used that way, and you can turn that off so it does not go off to their systems.
Right.
And then you can also They give you the option to delete anything that you have previously submitted. But it's important to look at those settings because corporate America being what it is, the default setting is that you let them use your information to train their model to do more and better stuff. I think it's important that people don't um, uh, put in, well, that's cute. Um, don't put in particularly confidential information, even if you have changed those settings into ChatGPT or Google or the other ones. Let me give an example of what I mean. I would not submit a prompt that says, draft a letter to Mary Jones of 123 Maple Drive, Racine, Wisconsin, explaining to her why it is not a Christian thing to do to take money out of the collection plate as it passes you during Sunday church services, and asking her to call the church office to make an appointment to speak with the pastor.
You can't
So,
make change out of the offering plate.
um, but if you wanted to get a first draft of a letter like that, if you were to simply say, please provide the first draft of a letter to a church member, and not putting in a name, and putting in other information, and then you can later add the confidential information in your Word document. But don't don't submit those those kinds of confidential details that you wouldn't want leaking out of these systems, even if they have told you they're not going to leak out of their systems.
So everybody saw the image that disappeared. Where'd it go?
Yep.
Is it back there? Oh, I think it disappeared. Where am I?
You're right in front of us. Yeah.
I was trying to share chat.
I actually took a screenshot of that, so we might use it.
Well, I can
Chris,
send it back to you. So I'm not. What am I showing? Can you see? What are you seeing on your screen?
We're just
it
saying.
just says you've started screen sharing. Double click to enter full screen mode.
I'm not sure what I did here. Share ChatGPT. And for some reason, I'm messing up on Zoom.
Okay, so now we're back to regular Zoom.
Okay, I stopped sharing, trying to share ChatGPT, share. But it's not sharing. Share. Come on. Still leaving. So, I'm obviously not doing something correct. And I'm not sure what that is. So, they've added a lot of things to ChatGPT. So one of the things, for example, is you can have a conversation with it. I was trying to show you the conversation. Let me get rid of a few screens of my other stuff to see if that'll help. Got too many apps open. Let's see. Steps. So here's another example of what we did for the Synod. We met with the Synod asked a whole bunch of pastors and leaders to go to congregations. Maybe you were one of their congregations. And so I went to a bunch and met with the church council, and we had 5 questions. What's going really well that you're excited about? What's not going so well that you're nervous about? Those kind of questions, right? And it was typically a half an hour with each. and we recorded those answers and gave them back to the synod, and they put them into a big long spreadsheet that was super long. Each question, each church, so it essentially put them all together. So then the challenge was, okay, so how do we make sense of all these answers, right? They gathered, I think it was close to 70 churches, and five questions each, but it became like several pages per church, right? With all their answers that the church council gave. So how do you make sense of what are the trends that came out of this? What are some of the really important gems or things that we need to learn? I essentially took them, put them into ChatGPT, and said, "Now summarize this for me into a report." And it essentially then said, question one, here are 10 takeaways from what these congregations said. And it put them in priority order, and it even gave quotes, things that were said. So each question had 10, and then here's a couple action steps. It even knew to give us action steps. Here's some things you should do as a synod council, So it really put together a 20-page report with action steps. Here's the things. And then this is the mind-blowing part, if that wasn't mind-blowing enough. Because how do you do that? I mean, with all that data, I mean, that would take you days to literally go through it all, collate, put it all together, have it make sense. But then taking that report, putting into a program called Notebook LM, which the whole point of Notebook LM is to say, I'm studying this topic. I only want to look at these sources. This is the book I'm reading. That's for my class. These are the things I only want to book. So I only wanted to look at that report. Now you can chat with it based on that report. Okay, how could I, as a leader in the synod, support these churches with these concerns, with these things they're excited about? What kind of things can I do? But one of the mind-blowing things it does, you can say, now generate for me a podcast from this, and have the podcast be a coach. So come from the voice of a coach that teaches me how to do this and really lifts up. And so what the podcast is two people talking back and forth in real voices. I mean, it's hard to discern that these are fake people. And have it then, it goes back and forth talking about the question and the topic and the report. I mean, it's fairly incredible. I'm going to play one example of a podcast that does this. Okay, so 1 second. Okay, so let's see if I can get this to share correctly again, and hopefully it will. Can you all see this?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think I should have enabled sound, so let me just do that. Is there sound? Okay. All right, so this is the podcast. This is a different podcast. This doesn't go along with the synod. This is I'm doing a trip in October. Anybody wants to come? There's still 2 spots. We're going to northern Greece and Turkey, hopefully. And I had it based on the agenda and the itinerary of the trip, create a podcast about this. So here's the podcast that was created based on the itinerary. This is all fake people. Oh, come on now.
Welcome to the deep dive.
Can you hear it?
We're about to embark on a historical adventure.
Can you hear it?
Today's deep dive is all about
Yes.
the footsteps of the Apostle Paul, Part 2. It's a journey through northern Greece and Turkey, and it's perfect for anyone who's ever wanted to walk in the footsteps of early Christians.
It's an amazing trip. It really blends, ancient history and biblical significance with just stunning landscapes and vibrant cultures. You're literally tracing the path of Paul, experiencing the places he preached, the communities he impacted, seeing how his message actually spread throughout the region.
Okay, so let's picture this. We just landed in Thessaloniki, Greece. Where do we go first?
Thessaloniki was a major city in the Roman Empire, and it was a key center for early Christianity.
Yeah, that's all. But I mean, that's the kind
Okay,
of stuff this does.
that's amazing. Let me just say, I mean, I know a fair amount about it. That,
Yeah.
that's pretty amazing.
Now the challenge becomes, okay, those are the only two voices you get. So what about other cultures? What about being a little diverse? And so that's coming. That is definitely coming. But this is where we're at right now. But the ability to do that is scary. So imagine those voices talking then about, okay, hey, we are the Greater Milwaukee Synod and we are working on these topics. So here's some things that we should, I mean, you can literally, I've done this for sermons where I've said, okay, I'm preaching on this topic. Here's the theme. This is what I'm kind of thinking about for my sermon. Act as a professional theologian on this topic and this text, and coach me on some ways I can address this text. And you get a 10 to 15 minute recording that is just like doing going into your theology books and giving you some ideas on, well, here's some ways you could address this topic. And it's pretty amazing. The with ChatGPT, you can do the back and forth. Let me see if I can show this now again. If I can finally get back into ChatGPT. Okay, we're back into ChatGPT. Tell me if you can hear this. Hi, ChatGPT. Are you there? No.
Hey there. No
Are you here?
worries if you.
Can everybody hear her voice?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
I can definitely.
So,
Great.
so we're thinking about camp, and what other ideas do you have for how we could really help the kids have a great week?
There are so many fun possibilities. You could organize themed days like a nature exploration day or a talent show day. You could also introduce some creative workshops like arts and crafts, music, or even storytelling, team building games, and maybe even a mini Olympics could be a hit. Just focusing on activities that build friendships and confidence will definitely make it a memorable week.
Oh, that sounds like fun. Wish I could go back to camp and do that.
I know, right? Camp always has that magical vibe that makes you feel like a kid again. It's never too late to join in on the fun, though. Maybe you can find a way to sneak in some of those activities for yourself, too.
So true. So, if we were going to do one of those activities, what maybe a carnival theme. What would be like if we had a carnival theme? What would be the parts that we could do with that?
A carnival theme sounds so fun. You could set up different game booths like ring toss, a beanbag toss, or a duck pond game. You could have a face painting station, maybe even a mini obstacle course and some fun snacks like popcorn or cotton candy. You could even do a little prize booth where kids can trade in tickets for small toys or treats. It would definitely bring a lot of excitement and smiles.
Well, that's some great idea. So then, because I'm a pastor, I'm going to have to preach on this afterwards, and we're going to address the congregation the next day after camp ends. How could I incorporate the theme of camp and all the things that we learned into be able to, I want to be able to share this with the congregation so they can get a sense of camp. So maybe either in my sermon or in just a welcoming message at the beginning. How could I do that? And could you generate for me maybe a little sample?
Absolutely. One way to incorporate the camp theme into your message is to focus on the lessons of community, joy, and growth that the kids experienced. Here's a little sample you might use for your sermon or welcoming message. Good morning, everyone. This past week, we had the joy of hosting our neighborhood camp, and it was truly a blessing. The children were immersed in fun and laughter, playing games, creating art, and learning about the importance of community. One of the most beautiful things we witnessed was how they supported and uplifted one another, reminding us all of the joy found in simple moments of connection. As we reflect on the week, let us carry forward that spirit of togetherness and joy into our own lives. Just as the children found delight in every activity, may we also find joy in our shared faith and in the simple blessings of everyday life. Feel free to tweak it to fit your own experience.
Thank you. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you can have conversations about whatever and so you don't even have to be trying to type. Um, this is something that people are wondering about right now, because there's a video out right now with Sam Altman, the founder of ChatGPT, and Ivy, who is the iPod, Apple phone, iPhone designer. He's the guy behind Apple. They have now merged companies, and they've started a whole process of, so how do we do AI without needing the computer? How do we do AI without needing to type? And so everybody's like trying to imagine, well, they've got this idea in their head they're not talking about yet, but does it become like a necklace you wear? Does it become glasses that you just interact with this? And I mean, this is where you start to realize AI is taking us in a whole different way. And I know Google has got their new glasses out. They haven't released them yet to the public, but they've shown examples where in the glass, I mean, I've got Facebook Meta glasses, um,
No.
where these are AI, but they're just I can talk to it, I can take pictures from it, I can listen to it in the headphones, I can have phone calls through it, and they actually help my vision too, because I'm nearsighted, so it helps me drive. But so the new ones will have actual screens in there to show you your directions for where you're going, turn left, turn right. You know, as you're seeing someone come forward in the future, you could easily see how it would say, "Oh, here comes Art Smith," and you're going, "What's the person's name again?" It's Art Smith, and they will, you know who you are based on all the images that are already up in the web, that kind of thing. So I
So,
mean, this is the kind of stuff where we're moving towards, I think,
yeah, how do we ask
which is scary.
ChatGPT to get you back on topic?
Okay, sorry, don't get me started.
No, but
Well,
I think
and we
we've
probably
probably
should
come
wrap it up.
to, yeah, probably come to the end. What would be the most useful for people? Chris and I recognize that we're too immersed in this and that we may not have. And so I want to make sure that if there are things that people would like us to send out in email or put up on a site somewhere, we can share that with you. So if there are extra things that you'd like to know that we haven't addressed, let us know, and then we can follow up.
Chuck asked the question, is this just for mobile devices? And no, there's mobile versions of this app. So Tim, do you use Google Gemini on phone too?
Yeah, I
Mobile
have it both
versions?
on my phone, but mostly I use it on the computer, not on the device. Um, I find that talking back and forth to it works easier with my phone for some reason. Um, but frankly, sometimes it's too creepy for me. I mean, that was pretty interesting actually hearing the planning for your neighborhood camp, Chris.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I actually like doing that. Like even if I'm driving, I can just put it on. I can have a conversation and actually get work done. I mean, I'm not seeing anything from it. All I'm just doing is having a conversation. So I could say, boy, I've got this idea. I really like this concept for an article, but I don't have it formulated yet. Let's talk about this. And pretty soon you're going back and forth on something, and it's getting fleshed out as you have this conversation with your personal assistant, you know, helping you think about, well, and you can even say, give me some questions that would really challenge me on this. Help me, ChatGPT, challenge me on this to think differently. What are some other ways of thinking? What would the experts do in this case? You know, and they'll say, well, an expert would ask these questions that you're not even addressing, Chris, because you're not an expert. You know, so Chuck, to answer your question, you can do this through a browser on your computer or on the phone or an iPad. Any of those, pretty much everything nowadays has, depending on which model you use. And there's lots of different models, but these that we've just shown you a couple. Ways, how do you want to wrap this up, Tim?
Absent additional questions, I don't know, we can think about whether there should be a version 2.0. I guess one question I would have is, was this too much a beginner class? Was this too much an advanced class? I'm just sort of interested if, basically, was it useful?
There's people in our congregation that would probably benefit from looking at this. So where will the recording of this session be?
I will put it up in the Outreach for Hope YouTube channel.
Okay.
And if you send me an email, if you just send it to Chris, CHRIS at outreachforhope.org, I'll send you the link, but you'll be able to find it up in the Outreach for Hope YouTube channel.
Okay.
But yeah, I plan to send it out to all our ministry partners too, and just say, in case you're interested, here's the video.
I know because I tried to make our grant writer aware of this, and she didn't log on tonight. So I'd like to be able
that's
to
okay.
send her a link. So
it's not the perfect night for everybody, that's for sure. And we changed it too because of other conflicts. Yeah, did people think this was? Did this make sense? Did it not make sense? Is it exciting, scary? Where are you at?
Yeah, this is Paul Bauman.
Mhm.
I want to thank you for this. The title was very appropriate. It's not as scary as you think it is, but it shows all the possibilities.
Yeah.
And I think it's a real tool. We're in Trinity and West Bend. We're going to be going through a pastoral change, and I know some of our staff could definitely use this. So I'm going to mention it to them and tell them it's available on YouTube, because it just opens all kinds of doors, and you don't have to spend so much time trying to create some stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would definitely say that, if you got to fill out the ministry site profile to go into the call process, and you have people who, drafting is, and writing is not their strong suit, getting, assistance, here's some stuff about our church, and then put the question that the MSP has, that could be useful for generating some of the narrative.
Mhm. Yeah,
Good
it's
suggestion.
there's so many good things you can do. I mean, really, it's kind of limited by your own imagination. What would you ask? What would you ask someone that's helping you to do this? And it really, you can load in all your stuff into it, and then say, "Now help me summarize this. Help me make sense of what I just said to you." But
And a
Nancy,
personal
Chuck,
use, personal use anybody can do with any of the free versions is like, if you're planning a vacation and you want it to help you plan an itinerary, or what are the can I see these three different things in London on the same day? It's really good for trip planning and itineraries. And I want an itinerary that focuses on English poets,
Yeah.
and and any of the free versions will produce great itineraries and things like that for you. A fun way to get used to playing around with some of the abilities.
Mm. Yeah, I set up my son's honeymoon. They wanted to go to the Dolomites in Italy. That was their climbers and hikers, and I had it produce a 10-day itinerary of climbing, hiking, where to stay, what to do, where to eat. And within 5 minutes, they had a sample itinerary that they could then edit and start making phone calls and looking at webs. It gives them the websites and everything. So, I mean, it's amazing the stuff this kind of stuff can do. Um, yeah, Chuck, was that helpful? Nicole, helpful? Michael, Nancy?
They haven't signed off, so it must have been.
It was helpful. Very
Good.
helpful.
Yeah,
All
good.
right. Well, if you have follow-up questions, we're happy to talk with you
Absolutely.
about it. And this stuff is ever evolving, and hopefully all for the good, right? So we'll end with that. So, all right, thank you all.
Right.
Okay.
Have a great night. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate your work on this.
Okay. Yep.